Okay, so I know that you have already made tofu scramble before, and I know that you've already read hundreds, well, maybe not hundreds, 20 tofu scramble recipes. And this one is probably not much different from those, except the way we cook the tofu scramble. Okay, so here's my thing. I don't like making tofu scramble in the pan because the nutritional yeast always sticks to the pan and makes a big mess. And since we're trying to cook oil free, you can't put oil in the pan, and water gets kind of mucky and it gets all, and the nutritional and the spices, the yeast and the spices and everything ends up getting stuck to the spatula, and then you end up like eating the nooch off the spatula, and it's not on the tofu scramble, and it's like a big mess, right? You've been there, haven't you? Okay, so I fixed all that because I don't like cleaning up a mess, and it doesn't make any sense to eat all my spices off my spatula and everybody else gets left out. So I figured out how to bake my tofu scramble. And what's tofu scramble without potato? Boring tofu scramble. So in this video, we're going to look at how easy it is to bake potatoes in the oven without oil. Okay, before we get started, I just want to say, do yourself a favor. Treat yourself to those silicone mats that fit on your baking sheets. These things are awesome. I have two of these that fit the big baking sheets. One of them I spent 25 bucks on, and I'm not about to cut that one down. In fact, I don't even think I can trim it. Hamilton Beach, if you'll go to the Kitchen Collection store, I think it's called the Kitchen Store or the Kitchen Collection Store. I think it's Kitchen Store. If you'll go over to their website, they have Hamilton Beach silicone mats for $5.99, and they work great, and you can trim them to fit your smaller baking sheets, and you don't have to feel bad, about trimming them. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I did here. You're going to see in just a second. I went ahead and trimmed my Hamilton Beach silicone mat down to fit my smaller baking sheet, and then for my larger baking sheet, I have my expensive, first time I ever bought one, silicone mat that I probably will never buy again because the Hamilton Beach ones are so much more affordable. Okay, there we go. Now, let's get started. Let's start with the potatoes. Okay, so here's my smaller baking sheet. I've got my mat trimmed to fit. And the trick to baking the potatoes in the oven is I have a second baking sheet, and I invert it, turn it upside down, and I cover the potatoes with this second sheet. And this helps the potatoes to cook, kind of steam on the pan and cook tender without getting all dried out and chewy. Okay, so on the potatoes, you see I have 6 small to medium sized potatoes, and I'm cutting these up into bite-sized pieces or small cubes. Okay, and then I just move all those to a big bowl and sprinkle about 3/4 to 1 teaspoon of salt over the top. Don't worry about writing any of this down because I have the list of ingredients at the end of this recipe and in the description box below. All right, and then sprinkle with salt and pepper. And then my favorite herb on baked potatoes is dried thyme. So on this I didn't have a lot of potatoes, so I probably added about 3/4 of a teaspoon. You could add more if you wanted. I think a half teaspoon, 3/4. You can't go wrong. You can't get too much on there. Okay, and then just transfer these potatoes and get them, flattened out and even on your baking sheet. I have preheated the oven to 425 degrees, which these silicone mats, you can bake on them up to 450, so it's perfect. Okay, and then to put my pan on top and pop it in the oven. Okay, and then I'm going to bake that for about 15 minutes. Okay, now, same bowl I used my potatoes, let's go for the scramble. On the scramble, I have 2 14-ounce packages of extra firm tofu that's drained, and I used my potato masher to crumble them up. You could use your hands if you want to. Okay, and then I added 2 teaspoons of, what is that? That's my garlic granules. Pay no attention to that label. And then 2 teaspoons of onion granules. I'd say powder, but you know, these days if you buy your spices at the bulk rack, there's a difference between onion powder and onion granules. So I'm just trying to be clear. Okay, and then on the cumin, 1.5 teaspoons of ground cumin. Now this is my version, and actually I'm tweaking it. It's never the same. You know, you just spice up your tofu scramble any way you want to, but don't be afraid to be heavy on the spices because tofu's pretty bland and it needs a lot of spice. I added 1 teaspoon of salt, and then I'm just adding as much pepper as I like, which is probably about 1/4 of a teaspoon. And then it wouldn't be tofu scramble without the nooch. So I started out with 2 tablespoons of nooch here, and then later on I ended up tasting it to see if that was enough, and I added more. So in the end, I ended up adding about a 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. But that's the way we like it. You may not like that much, and it's okay. You can, you know, cut that back or go half. And then I almost forgot the turmeric or turmeric. How do you pronounce that? I put about one. I started with a 1/2 teaspoon, but I ended up putting a whole teaspoon of this stuff in there. And then you got to get yourself some black salt. I don't know how to pronounce the actual name for this stuff. Namak? I don't know. I have no idea. Anyways, this stuff smells like boiled eggs. It is powerful. You don't want to get a lot of it, and I added about a 1/4 teaspoon to the bowl. Okay, here's my biggest cookie baking sheet. I'm just dumping that scrambled tofu right in there, and you'll see I didn't get it, like, it's not perfect, it's not consistent. There's some big chunks and there's little chunks, and that's fine. It'll be fine. You know, one of the things that I like about baking tofu in the oven is that I don't have to mess with stirring it, okay? All I'm gonna do is make sure that at this point I am getting my bigger chunks of tofu at the edges, because the edge always cooks a little firmer, you know, cooks drier and cooks up more than the center of the pan. And using the extra firm tofu, you're getting a firm, chewy scramble. So if you like firm, you know, chewy scrambles, this is perfect. Okay, now it's been 15 minutes. I'm pulling out the potatoes, checking on it. Let me show you what this looks like. They're nice and tender. The potatoes are not dried out. At this point, they are fork tender. At 15 minutes, they're fork tender, but I want them to be creamy to the bite. So I put them back in the oven for 5 more minutes. Now, here I'm rearranging my pans because I need to get my tofu scramble in there. And this is a lot of food for 4 people, but this is going to take care of us for, you know, a couple of mornings and maybe dinner too. So I stuck my tofu scramble on the bottom rack to get it going, and then just stuck the potatoes up on the top because, again, I just wanted like 5 more minutes with those. Oh, and be careful when you're pulling this stuff out of the oven. It's been so long since I've had a stove like this. I've had a wall unit for so many years. I keep forgetting to stand back when I open the oven. Okay, look. Check out these potatoes. There's no oil on these potatoes. And look how they are just coming off this silicone mat, okay? There's a little bit of sticking, I'll give you that. But overall, you know, I don't have to, I mean, I'm not really trying to pull these off. It looks awkward because it's hard. It's hard to look smooth, you know, and cool while you're trying to film yourself cooking, okay? I'm a one-woman show with an iPhone trying to make all this happen. So, you know, it gets awkward at moments because I'm, you know, trying to make sure I'm in the shot. Okay, there you go. See, they're just falling right off. And the steam, I mean, if I didn't hurry, I could have just left those potatoes on that silicone mat, and they would have, you know, continued cooking on the pan and probably fallen off a lot easier. All right, there you go. See? Aw, they are so good. It is so hard not to eat them right then and there. Okay, and then it's been 15 minutes with the tofu scramble, and check it out. I did not stir this. It's good. It is perfect. It is a perfect tofu scramble at this point. There's nice chewy bits on the edges, and the tofu scramble in the center is still soft. And so, you know, depending on your, and then when you mix all that together, it's really good to have soft and chewy pieces of tofu scramble. That's my opinion. And look, see, I'm not really using the right utensil to scrape this stuff off a baking sheet, but you see that I'm not really exerting a lot of effort to get this scramble off the pan and into the dish. I'm really just, again, it's awkward because I'm trying to stay in the shot and show you how easy this is. I love this. And the only places that the scramble actually stuck to the pan are on the sides where there was no silicone mat. And that mat could be cleaner if I'd used a spatula. There you go. Ta-da! Tofu scramble ready to go. All you need are some corn tortillas and you're ready to eat. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, I don't care. Eat it when you want to. There it is. Delicious. All right, I'm gonna let y'all go try this out. Tell me what you think. If I've left anything out or you got any questions, please post your questions down below. I'm always online. All right, thank you for sharing, liking, and subscribing to Simple Daily Recipes. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.